4 decades. I'm delighted to welcome Chris Wheeler. Take it away, Chris.
Hi, good morning, everybody. Thank you, Alec. What we're going to do this morning, because we don't have a lot of time, is I'm just going to quickly tell you what ChatGPT and AI are all about. Basically, is everybody familiar with ChatGPT? Has everybody used it, or are they aware of it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so basically, ChatGPT is an evolution of AI. That AI actually started in the 60s. The first, what you might call chatbot, was called Alice, and Alice was created to understand more technical aspects of chat. And where we are right now is that we've got this wonderful thing called ChatGPT. ChatGPT stands for Chat Generative Pre-trained Transformer. And it's a large language model. And in simplistic terms, what that means is that, excuse me, it learns from existing content and it generates content fresh. Yeah, and it will generate only at this point text-based information, but there are a series of plugins you can add into it to link to what we now have as the more visual products. So what I've tried to do this morning is simplify this as much as possible. And because we don't have time, I've already pre-created some prompts. And a prompt is literally what you, first of all, the text that you put into this area here for the message. And inside a curly bracket, you put the subject of that prompt once you've written it. So when ChatGPT started, which was in, really it went live November 2021, it was obviously very basic because it hadn't had much to learn from. Where it is now is it's got very much more sophisticated. If you work on LinkedIn, you've probably seen lots of different things going on around ChatGPT, AI, and as somebody that's been on LinkedIn for 17 years, there is a lot of information going out there at the moment that clearly is created by ChatGPT and likewise. And it's quite hard to sort through what is actually real from somebody who knows what they're doing and what is not real from something where somebody just put a prompt in and created something. So what we've got at the moment is this sort of weird world where you've got to try and figure out, is this person an expert and they're writing about something they actually know about, or have they got a bot to write it? And you know, you'll only probably find that out if you go to a live interaction with them and you start quizzing them. But we're even now seeing, crazily, that people are writing posts and articles on LinkedIn, and other people are commenting using ChatGPT to write the comments. And that again is, for me, it's a bit of a worrying trend. And I come from an era which is from the films of the Terminator. Yeah, and if you've seen those films, you'll see that the machine learned very, very quickly and in fact overtook humans. So I'm quite glad that I'm at the sort of back end of my career, and I don't really have to get into this in too much detail. But for the next generation, it's going to be very difficult, I think, to understand whether somebody's actually got marketing expertise online or whether, in fact, it's just AI doing it. I wrote an article a few weeks ago about generative AI for small business, and certainly a positive is that in terms of small business, I think that if you've got little resources and you understand what you can actually achieve with these kind of models, and bearing in mind there's now about 600 different versions of either text-based or visual-based AI out there, then potentially, you know, it could actually be a good resource for you. But I just worry that people are passing themselves off as experts when really they're not. And our world of digital marketing is full of people who are self-proclaimed experts. So that's just a word of caution. So as I say, what I've done this morning is I've tried to give you some real world examples of what a prompt looks like. And I've already written them for speed. So I'm going to start with something that is close probably to Vincent. And I'm going to ask ChatGPT to write me a humorous email in a certain amount of words, covering introducing my company as a potential supplier of wine in Italy to a Dublin restaurant. And I click the button, and it produces for me exactly that. So it says, I'm introducing my company, the Tipsy Tuscan. This is who we are, and this is what we'd like to do for you. And there's a call to action at the end of it. And that's a very simple request. And that's kind of the early stages of ChatGPT. We're looking like that. And obviously, what you would do is go in, you'd fill in the blanks, but you could send that out, and obviously you would try, like any testing in email marketing, you would beta test it and see whether that would work for you. So any questions on that? Is that clear? Okay, so next we're going to look at what I tend to major on is things around website development. Ahmet will be familiar with this. So what I wanted to do was I wanted to create a form in WordPress, which is a content management system most of you will be aware of. And I've asked it to create the form in a specific color border with a specific pixel width around the border and a specific text. And the prompt that I gave it was, I've got a WordPress website. I want to create the form. I want to use Elementor, which is a WordPress web page builder. I needed the HTML code. The text should be black, exactly as I said. Can you show me how, please? And there is the code. And all I do then is I take that. It tells me exactly the CSS, the custom style sheet for this, a cascading style sheet for this. And I can clip that there, copy code, put that into my Elementor, and I've got a perfect form straight away, in a matter of seconds. So that's a web marketing application. And then one of the topics close to my heart for Evelyn is actually order to cash. I've been working on order to cash for about 2 years now for a client. So what I've done is I've created a prompt for order to cash, and this is around content marketing. And I want to create a content calendar for my blog. It's got the best chance of helping me to rank for what we call long tail keywords. So they're more than just a keyword, it's a phrase. And I want to know what are the keywords around my specific word so that I can build pages around that. And I want to focus on transactional keywords, so keywords that are actually going to generate me some kind of call to action or lead. And I've asked it to create me titles for the blog posts, organize them in a nice little table, and divide them into weeks. And I've said at the end of it, please write me the calendar only on the topic of, and then you can see the curly brackets, and it says order to cash. And my output is that. So I've got a complete content calendar for order to cash, and it tells me that I can adjust my times and dates and everything else. But obviously it's giving me ideas of exactly what I can do to generate interest. And it understands also that this information is collected from all the data it's already got. So it knows that these subjects are close to the subject of order to cash. So there's a good chance that if you write a blog post about the ultimate guide to streaming the process, you'll get some engagement on your platform.
Chris, can I ask you a question on that, Cormac here?
Please do, yeah.
Isn't it the case that Google can tell if it's ChatGPT generated, and it doesn't like that to put it in my own?
It's really interesting because Google tells you that, but then Google tells you a lot of things that you can't believe. I mean, it's unique content for one. And actually Google's building its own model. Yeah, so it's a bit hypocritical to say don't do this and don't do that when it's doing it itself. I've not heard of any cases where anyone's got penalized for this, but you know, again, it's something that you've got to try and test. And I haven't done it myself. I don't write content with ChatGPT, but if I did, I think I'd probably take the content that ChatGPT creates for me. I put it into Notepad or something without a style element, and then copy it into wherever you want to copy it into. And obviously make sure you can see here quite clearly that in the third paragraph at the top there, it says the calendar is organized into weekly tables. And you can see that's in American English. And one of the things this is all in American English. So what you need to be able to do is say, you know, I want it in English UK. You can ask it to be more chatty. You can ask it to change the style. So if you create a piece of content and you want to try and get your stamp on it, you can do that. But yeah, the jury's out, I think. I haven't seen any cases where it's been penalized by Google.
But isn't it true, Chris, that also you can go through the content that GPT or byword.ai, as I've put in the comments, has written, and you can change sentences to maybe include some pronouns or something like that, or a quote that you have experienced, and that changes the content completely anyway.
You're precisely right, and I'm going to come on to that because we're getting into this world now. No, it's fine. Absolutely. No, we're coming into this world now where, as I said, I've tried to show you that there were some very basic first steps. And now we're getting into the more complex stages of exactly what you've just said, Amit, which is, you know, prompts that have got much more depth to them. And when I take one of those, I'll take the SEO topic first, which is the next level. And in the SEO topic, one thing is important to note is that it can't read search engines. It can't understand the number of searches per month on Google. There are plugins now that are coming out to help with that, but ChatGPT only has information also to 2021. Yeah, so the next ChatGPT is now planned, I think, for next year, and that will be real time, they say. But having said that, Microsoft are already getting bounds above what is able to be done by ChatGPT, and it looks like Microsoft, for the first time in a long time, are starting to lead where others follow. Yeah. So,
okay. Chris, can I just ask? Have you heard of Bard? It's supposed to be like a newer version of ChatGPT, and they're saying it's better and it's more advanced and it's up to date.
Exactly, and that's a Google product.
Yeah.
Again, Google seems to be losing its way in a lot of areas at the moment. We saw some screenshots the other day from Google of the new version of Google Search that is going to use ChatGPT. And in that model, you know, when you search for something, you see images, don't you? You know, when you put a search string into Google, you see images as well as the meta descriptions and titles when you search for something. And they're now going to distinguish what is AI and what is real. Not only in other people's content, but in their own content as well. So they're gonna mark what's being used, what's being created by AI and what hasn't, which is interesting. But Bard is rolled out in the States already. We've tested it. It's not. I think it's a bit more intuitive, but it's early days. We've only had it for a week, so we're still figuring it out.
Yeah, sorry, I just heard about it during the week from somebody else that was talking about ChatGPT, and they were saying it was better, they thought, but like that it hasn't been checked yet, has it? You know, it's still very new.
It's more of a crossover between image and text, and again, they're all learning, obviously, and they're like everything in tech and certainly in digital marketing. I think people learn from other people's mistakes, and they're testing all the time. So. Yeah.
But also the nature of AI is the more we use them, the smarter it'll get, just by virtue of being trained by our prompts, our commands, and our usage.
Precisely. So it's, as I said at the beginning, it learns from existing content and then generates that based on predictions and understands it. So it's a constant learning model, and that's why it's a little bit scary, because obviously as it learns, it gets more intelligent. Yeah, quite right, Amit. So yeah, the next prompt is a bit more in-depth. So as an experienced SEO strategist, my mission is to create an SEO plan for the next quarter. I want you to determine the keywords, the content topics, and the link building strategies that are going to be used. Outline it in a table, specify the keyword, the content, and the link building approach for the focus area. And the output is this. Yeah. Now, what would be great is if you had your own website and you could put your URL in and it would read everything you've got on there. But at the moment, it won't do that. I think there are going to be plugins, and there are an awful lot of plugins out there. But again, it will give you the outline plan. It will tell you clearly as a model. You can see at the top, it will say, I can't do this or I can do that. But you can see quite clearly that, for the layperson, it's quite simple, actually. It's quite easy to understand. And you can interrogate it further. Yeah, the thing about it is, because it's learning all the time, you can say, well, I don't understand this area. What is link building? And it will give you an explanation. And that's why it kind of crosses over into being a search engine of a kind. Yeah, and I think that's why Google are running a bit scared, because pretty much you can interrogate everything. It's just the downside right now is, I think, that it's not in the real world, in real time, sorry. Yeah, so I think when it gets to the point where it's going to be in real time, it could be very interesting. Yeah, and so taking it to the final level for text is something much more specific, and this is where we've been going in the last few weeks. So I've asked it to be a content writer with a certain level of experience. I could ask it to write it in German, in any language, in fact, and I ask it to be grammatically correct, create the tables, lay it all out, put the subtopics in, use paragraphs, blah, blah, blah. And I've asked it to write an article on business development. And the output for that is this. So it gives me the introduction, the outline, and then it will generate the response. And the problem is, at the moment, which is a big issue, is that there's 96 million users on here right now, a month. So sometimes you have to just click continue, and it will actually create the article for you with the H tags. And going back to what Cormac said, this is SEO friendly and ready to go, and you would need to understand whether or not this was going to be accepted by Google, and that is a little bit dangerous. But as you can see, because this is a paid version I'm using, not the free version, and even with the paid version, it stumbles when there's a lot of people on the platform. So you've got to be a little bit patient, and you learn by doing. And this continue is invaluable, because it will continue ad infinitum. So you can actually just say, I haven't got enough content, and it will continue to write it. What it struggles with right now is, if I say I want a 500-word article, sometimes it will give me 650, and sometimes it will give me 350. And then in the prompt, I just type expand or give me the exact, and then it will go and do the exact. But it sometimes needs a couple of different goes at it to do that, which can be frustrating.
This actually doesn't look like an article.
No, again, because it's continued. It's an article. Sorry, it's not an article. It's an SEO. It
looks like a shopping list.
Yeah,
or of some sort.
These are all H tags. Yeah, so they're all for SEO purposes. Yeah.
So I suppose if I saw something like that on LinkedIn, I would tell straight away this wasn't written by a human.
Yeah, I think it's getting more and more difficult, as I said earlier, for that to be the case. And again, if you can, as you've seen the evolution there of, we're widening the prompts out to be much more specific. You can see we even put in there, it's a human written article. It's in whatever language. And then, a lazy person or somebody, who just wants to get their content out will just simply copy and paste that into LinkedIn or whatever. For me, if you had any kind of savvy at all, you'd take it, shape it according to, what you've been used to writing. So you put your own style and stamp on it, and then put it out there. But you can see that I put, write it in an informal style, as if written by, use an informal tone, use personal pronouns, engage the reader. And we're getting much more into this element now of, we can be a lot deeper in what we want it to create.
I think, in fairness, Chris, what we're seeing here is something in its infancy.
Really
yeah. And I think also, Evelyn, what you have the power to do is like brainstorm a topic. So you can get the headlines, not just copy and paste it, but to, I didn't think about that, or there's an interesting piece around that topic that I could now expand out on.
Yeah.
So it's a great way of sort of doing that. Yeah.
Yeah,
Excellent.
I suppose it gives
a bit like having
ideas
a
for
board of
sure.
directors.
Yeah.
Yeah. The other thing is, put in the hands of a decent designer, they can make it look like it's a design piece rather than a piece that's being regurgitated from the internet, you know?
Precisely, Nicholas. Yeah, exactly that. So
I was brainstorming with a client yesterday and used ChatGPT to quickly generate some HTML models to create wireframes that they can interact with and in terms of functionality, so they get an idea of the layout that's in my head within a couple of hours, and then we can go and develop it in whatever platform we're going to use.
Exactly. And finally, what I want to do is just show you where it's moving to in terms of visual. This is the open chat AI version of visual AI and design AI called DALL-E. And this was one of the first visuals. We're using a product called Midjourney, but Midjourney at the moment this week has been falling over quite a bit when we've been doing testing on it. So I didn't want to use that today. But as a photographer, I wanted to create something that was a bird sitting on a tree trunk. It's photorealistic. I'm using my Canon 5D Mark IV. I'm using a 50mm lens. I want a blurred background. I want it to be award-winning. I want it to be realistic with natural colors. And I click this button. And in a few seconds, it will create for me exactly what I've asked for, exactly how I wanted it. And different versions of.
Wow.
Yeah, and I can equally go in and edit that and say I want a cold tit, or I want a blackbird, or change the color slightly. If I understand hex colors, for example, I can say I want the color of that green to be different or whatever, just like you would if you were using Photoshop.
Vincent, you have your hand up there.
Yes, Chris, just to ask a question. Because I work in different languages, I often have to use Google Translate. You mentioned that you can't use Google Translate for long paragraphs. It has to be very specific. Sure. From my experience.
Yes.
But it seems that with this, though, you just have to prompt it with a couple of commands, and it will be grammar specific and everything else. Will this be bad news for Google Translate, for example?
To be fair, Google Translate's never been that brilliant. I mean,
no, this is it. So
for an Englishman living in Germany and I get stuck, I use DeepL, actually. DeepL is a lot better. But to answer your question, I think yes, obviously, because you can say I want it grammatically correct, I want it We've done tests. Claudia, my business partner, is German, and obviously she's been trying German versions. And one of the interesting things which you may or may not be aware of is in Germany there's an informal language grammar, and there's a formal. So there's do and sie. We call it per do. Yeah, and one thing it struggles with, unless you really put I want it in do or z for you in the do is informal and z is formal for you, it won't know it. Yeah, and it will always put it in the formal.
In Italy, there are like, for example, the way people speak Italian where I am in Milan or Lombardia is very different to the way they would use the grammar in Tuscany, for example.
And that would be very to do an experiment.
Yeah.
Say, I'm in Tuscany. Can you do it in my local dialect?
Yeah, they would know if an Irish person uses dialect. They'd know that it wasn't me, because I can't speak Tuscan dialect. I barely speak the dialect from my village here, and I hear that every day. Right. But it's interesting that because we have a similar thing in Italy. We have a formal way of speaking and an informal way of speaking.
Sure.
It depends on who you're talking to and what level of respect they're supposed to deserve. Yeah. And so I don't know. I think this is really interesting for somebody like me, who must write the introduction emails, who must do this type of thing,
sure.
who must explain projections, who must do lots of things. And I'm actually fine. I only need Google Translate for bits and pieces. There's always stuff that you need help with.
Yeah, of course.
This is, to me, this would be a game changer.
It is a game changer.
Speed wise as well. I just don't even have to do it. I
No.
just have to do what we say in Italian, correzione di bozze, which is basically check it,
Yeah.
you know, proofread it.
Yeah, that's what Claudia's done. We've been doing some tests for generating the SEO in German, generating SEO content, and you can't really just copy and paste it. You've got to change it in German, definitely. So I'm guessing it's the same in Italian.
Okay,
Yeah, I'd imagine, yeah.
Rather than
But
get into
it's brilliant.
specifics here, if you don't mind, let Chris finish off here.
Okay.
Somebody's in the background there on the phone or something. Go on, fire ahead.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I'm picking up a sound.
Okay. So yeah, that really is a very, very swift introduction. It's a huge topic, and we've been working on it now for over 2 years, and it's evolving very, very rapidly, and it's got huge amounts of impact, both positive and negative. And we're actually starting training courses on it for marketing from July. And I'm writing an ebook on it right now, so I'll keep you posted on that. And obviously, if you want, one-to-one training, then we can give you specific to your business, and help you to understand all the dynamics of it.
Well, listen, Chris, can I thank you very much for a nice delivery of all of that content, and certainly enough to stimulate everybody. That's a round of applause for Chris. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Cheers, Chris.
No worries.
That was great.
No worries.